Loan officer sales training with the mortgage calculator. Today we're going to be talking about how to overcome objections. We'll wait just a minute here to go live on all the different platforms. Give everybody a chance to tune in. We do stream this live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. So we'll wait just a moment here to get started to let everybody have a chance to jump on. Thank you, everybody who's tuning in nice and early. We'll get started here in a moment. Feel free to go ahead and drop a comment there in the chat as you tune in. We appreciate it. And you can drop any questions you have in the chat as well as we go through the presentation here today. Hope everyone's having a great week so far. And it looks like we're live on all the different platforms, so we will go ahead and get it started. So welcome everyone. My name is Kyle Hershey. I'm the COO of the Mortgage Calculator, and this is our loan officer sales training that we do 12 p.m. Eastern time every weekday, where we go through more of the front end of the mortgage business, talking about sales and leads and all that kind of good stuff. So today we're going to be talking about how to overcome objections. Now, what you're going to see is that the theme throughout this is going to be educating ourselves as loan officers, right? That's going to be the key to all of this, because in order to overcome the objections that borrowers may have, we have to have the ammunition, and the ammunition is knowledge of what it is that we're talking about, what it is that could help overcome that objection. And so that's kind of the overall theme here, is that in order to overcome objections easily and quickly, it's going to depend on how educated we are on the loan programs, what we can do, pricing, all that kind of good stuff. So a couple slides here. First off, to overcome objections, we need to listen and understand the concerns, right? So many people are so pushy, just push back. A lot of loan officers let this become a personal thing. It gets personal if the person has an objection or has a pushback or anything like that. We never want to take anything personal like that, right? And we never want to get into a back and forth, sparring match or anything like that, which a conversation can naturally turn into that. And it does more than you would think. And that's just human nature. When somebody pushes back against you, you push back against them. But what we need to do as salespeople and as loan officers is really make sure we listen and we understand their concern. We understand that it's a valid concern, because any concern that a client has is a valid concern, even if you think it's silly. Keep in mind that they are not the expert, right? They are not a mortgage expert. One thing I see a lot of newer loan officers do, and actually experienced ones too, to tell you the truth, is to assume that clients know X amount about mortgages, assuming they know what DTI, LTV, mortgage insurance, PMI, to think that they know these abbreviations, that they know these concepts. Somebody who's never purchased a home before doesn't know what mortgage insurance is, probably doesn't understand mortgage insurance. They probably think mortgage insurance is like your homeowner's insurance, right? They're like, yeah, well, I get a house. I get that I have to have insurance. That's my mortgage insurance. Well, no, it's completely different, right? But we as the loan officers, as the licensed professional, we need to know all this, but we can't assume that clients know all of this, right? So we have to, and I see that a lot, we have to understand people's concerns, understand that they are not the licensee, that they do not necessarily know anything about mortgages or how mortgages work. And some loan officers get, snippy and combative because the person doesn't fully understand the process, or the person has a concern that you're like, oh, well, you don't know what you're talking about because this is how it actually works. Well, they don't know what they're talking about most of the time. It's our job to educate them. So notice here, we want to listen and understand their concerns, and we don't want to be combative ever, right? It's our job to build rapport with them, to be the loan officer consultant, to be the professional. So even if they're combative against us, we are not combative back, right? We do not push back in a confrontational way. We're simply here to educate the prospect on the topic that we're talking about. So whatever their objection is, the way to overcome that objection is not to push back, it's to educate the prospect on the topic that we're talking about. And even if they know how these things work, we're educating them on the opportunities that are in front of us right now and the scenario that's in front of us. So if we do our job educating the prospect on the topic of their objection, we can make it the prospect's decision, and they will literally overcome their own objection. So what do I mean by that? I mean, educating them on the choices. Well, this is how it works. We could either go this route and this would happen, or we could go that route and that would happen. Okay, you have that concern with this route. Well, let's talk about this other route, but let's talk about some concerns that may come up in that route too, right? And so when we're educating them on all of these things, we can make it the borrower's or the prospect's decision to overcome their own objection in the way that they want to. And it's always good to put it back on them to where it's their decision, right? So instead of trying to force something down their throat, we want to educate them on the possibilities, on what's not possible as well, right? So what is possible, what's not possible. And let's try to put it together to where they're making their own decision. Let's say somebody's like, let's say somebody does know what mortgage insurance is and they say, I don't want mortgage insurance. That's ridiculous. I don't want to get a loan where I pay mortgage insurance. Okay, well, let's educate the borrower on the pros and cons. Let's educate them on how they could not have mortgage insurance, whether that's, putting down more money or using a non-QM product that doesn't have mortgage insurance. And then we lay out the pros and cons of those. Because, whatever concerns they may have regarding those, right? So when we do that, we make it, the borrower's not saying, oh, I don't want to work with the mortgage calculator because they're going to make me have mortgage insurance. Well, again, the clients don't know that every lender in the entire world would require them to have mortgage insurance on a conventional loan less than 80% LTV, right? Or more than 80% LTV, I guess I would say. So again, they're not licensed. They don't know how this works. They don't know how loans work, lenders work, the markets work, secondary markets work. This is all on us as the licensee to know all of this and to make sure that we educate the borrower. Not educate them as in throw a bunch of things that go over their head, but educate them in a way where we're speaking to somebody who has no idea how mortgages work. They did not go to school like you did. They did not get trained like you did. They did not take a test like you did. They're not on trainings like you are, right? So we have to bring it down to the basic level of basic understanding for somebody who never was in the mortgage industry. We have to lay it out. We have to educate them on the pros and cons, and we let them overcome their own objection. That is the biggest thing I want everybody to take away from this training, as far as when people have objections, how do you overcome them? You educate them so that they can overcome them themselves. And then they did it themselves. That's their choice of the loan that they wanted to go into. And now all of a sudden it's not an objection anymore. It's what they wanted, right? So you're not pushing them into anything. We're educating them on everything. And again, most of the objections are going to be negatives, right? I don't want this, or I don't want to pay that, or I don't want to do that. But we have to educate them on the reality of the situation. And once they're educated properly on the reality of the situation and other options that they may have, not only are they going to be able to overcome their own objection, but throughout that process, you are proving your worth to them as a loan consultant, and they're not going to go anywhere else. They're not going to, once they do this deal, they're not going to do another deal with somebody else, because you are literally walking them through. And also, please know that people can hear and feel, even through the phone, they can feel somebody being pushy, somebody trying to push them into one thing, somebody trying to kind of force it to be trying to close them like a salesperson at all times, or trying to be combative back and forth, right? There's no need to be combative back and forth. We have plenty of loan programs, plenty of options, right? To where we can lay out all of the information and let the borrower make their own decision, let the borrower overcome their own objection, right? Couple more things here. Objection is great because an objection is a chance to provide solutions, right? So just like I was saying, we're going to be able to now show the client that we are a professional and that we are worth our money and our commission because we listened to their objection. We analyzed it in our head in real time based on all the information that we know, and we're able to provide other tips, tricks, solutions, other routes that we can go. This is all things that we can do to provide the solution. So really, an objection is a great chance for us to show off how good of a loan consultant that we are to them, and how, we are I guess, a valuable part of the transaction, right? Jose, our sales manager, Jose, always talks about it. He loves, that's his favorite line, is we need to bring value to the transaction. And an objection from a client is your chance to provide value there. If you didn't have to overcome any objections, there'd really be no reason for you to be there, right? Somebody would just call up and say, do my loan, and they're ready, willing, and able to do it. But they're going to have objections. It's our job to take those objections, analyze them, and the way that we're going to answer them is we're going to educate the client, essentially, right? And consult them. And here's another point. This is especially for newer loan officers. Don't be afraid to contact people later. Don't be afraid to say, I'm going to search for a solution to this or an answer to this. Remember, we have 5,000 loan programs where we're the lender. You can't know every single program. Now, you should be training. You should be doing our trainings. You should be educating yourself. You should try to know what's going on. In general, how bank statement loans work, and in general, how a P&L works. But again, there's 5,000 programs. There's hundreds of bank statement programs that we have with different guidelines and stuff, right? And then there's tens of thousands of loan programs through the 80 plus brokered outlets that we have, our wholesale outlets. So it's humanly impossible to be able to know the answer to every single thing or the solution to every single thing off the top of your head. Don't be afraid to let the client know, hey, I have so many different options. Let me go look in to see what we could do, right? You don't have to know. So newer loan officers, you don't have to know right that second. So don't be afraid. Notice the next thing here, fear no objection. Don't be afraid, because you can always get back to the person of that objection. And here's the thing. It works great as long as you're not sparring back and forth with them about that objection. If you just take that objection and say, you know what, that's a great question. I'm going to actually look into that and see if we can have a solution for that issue, right? And you can tell them, you can say, I have tens of thousands of different loan programs. So I'm going to go do some research for you. So now you're turning something. So you were afraid at first, right? Typically, you were afraid of the objection because you're afraid you didn't know the answer off the top of your head. So we're going to take that from you thinking it's a bad thing, and we're going to flip that into something the client sees as a good thing. Because we're going to take from you not knowing off the top of your head to saying, hey, actually, I have so much resources that I'm going to take my time to go do research for you to find the answer to your objection. I hear your objection. I am acknowledging it, that it is a valid objection, and I'm going to go solve that problem for you. So it turns into, instead of you thinking, oh man, I didn't know the answer off the top of my head, they're going to think I don't know what I'm doing. That's okay that you don't know the answer. Just let them know, hey, I have so many outlets and so many options. I'm going to take down this information that we're talking about, and I'm going to go scour through thousands of loan program guidelines to figure out if we can get past this issue, right? So you can turn something from being a negative, thinking you don't know it off the top of your head, to being a positive where this client's going, oh, wow, they're going to go research and go look for me and do all this stuff, right? So it's creating more value on your part. Now you're more valuable to them because you're telling them, I'm going to go to work for you, right? So you can kind of turn that negative into a positive. And remember that you don't need to fear any objection because you have all of the resources that you could ever possibly need. You have the answer to overcome every objection in our trainings, training center, knowledge center, support from your team leader, from the management staff, from the Zoom room, from all the loan guidelines themselves, right? I mean, you have all the answers available to you. So don't fear any objection. The only thing you may need to do is get back to the person, and that's okay. There's no problem with getting back to someone about something you don't know. What is a problem is telling somebody something that's not true because you didn't take the time to go research it, right? So that's even more important, to make sure that if you have any doubt, just we're staying positive. Oh, great question. Let me look into see how we can fix that or solve that or get around that or do whatever, right? And it's all positive. But if you're just stuck like, oh, I don't know what, or whatever, it turns negative. But it can be very positive vibes, positive attitude, knowing, hey, I should probably look into this more. So I'm just going to tell them, hey, great, question, whatever, we'll figure it out, and probably move on in the conversation with have taken a note that you need to get back to them on that part, but probably continuing the conversation, right? And they're going to notice, okay, you are going to get back to me to address my concern once you fully research it, which again, it seems like you're doing more for them when you're telling them, I'm actually going to go look into this for you to make sure I 100% get the correct answer or solution to overcome your objection because I'm here working for you, right? And then the last thing I've written here is use the power of your team. So not only do you not need to be afraid of objections, not only do you have all the resources you need in case you need to get back to somebody, but you have your team that you can refer deals to. So here at the Mortgage Calculator, something that I think more people should take advantage of is when they're not quite sure how to handle an objection or get around that objection, or not quite sure how to do that loan type, and they're not using the power of their teammates to be able to refer that deal, still make compensation on that deal, but have someone else that's more experienced, that's already done these type of loans, come in and help them. Of course, if you refer the deal, you're making less money because somebody else is actually doing the loan for you. But at the end of the day, a little piece of something is better than a whole piece of nothing, right? And if you drop the ball and you're not answering people's objections correctly, and you're not able to push this loan across the finish line in the needed amount of time, you're going to end up with nothing, as opposed to a client that would be super happy that you took down their information, explained to them that you're still going to help, but you're actually going to bring in an expert, right? We don't ever tell a client we're passing them off. We say, hey, I'm still here, I'm still doing a loan, but I'm going to bring in an expert to help us because they've done fix and flips. They specialize in fix and flips or short-term rentals or whatever it is, right? You can bring your team leader. If it's one of those complicated deals, you could refer to your team leader, like a fix and flip or something like that, one-time close, something that's pretty complicated, and you're going to learn along the way so that the next time one comes around, you would be equipped to actually do it. So don't forget to use the power of your team. It's one of the cool things that not every company allows you to do this, these intercompany referrals. Definitely not every company has a button that you can click to just immediately refer it out, right? And so make sure to take advantage of that. There is a team here. Not only do we have the support team to support you and train you and answer your questions and point you in the right directions. But we also have a team of loan officers who can take that loan if you're unsure about it, or you don't know how to overcome an objection, or you don't know how to do that loan type. One of your teammates can absolutely do that loan, slam dunk it. Now you have a happy client and a loan is closed. You made something instead of nothing, and you got a happy client ready to do the next loan. And maybe you can do the next loan because now you know how to do that loan type, right? So remember, when you have a client and you refer it, that client is still yours, right? So the loan officer doing the loan is going to help you by doing that loan, but it's still your client. So you can do their next loan, right? And so I do want people to maybe ease up on the reins a little bit there, and don't be afraid to refer out whenever you think necessary, because at the end of the day, at least the loan will get done. It'll get done quickly, efficiently. Your client will be happy. So now you have a happy client and a closed deal with some money in pocket, instead of an upset client and no closed deal and no future deals from that client, right? But if we can get that to a loan officer who knows how to do it, who's more familiar with it, they close it quickly, easily. Now we got some money in our pocket. We got a happy client. We got referrals coming from that client. We got business coming from that client in the future. So it's definitely a huge swing, right? From, dropping the ball on a client to now having money in our pocket, having new deals come in at the end of the day. So just to recap here, make sure we listen, we understand, we know that the client is not a loan officer. This is a huge one. I can't stress enough. So many loan officers, and it's true with me when I first started too, when I was actually on the phone making calls. You get so wrapped up in your own world that you kind of tend to forget that this person is not in the mortgage industry, right? So we have to really get in the space of, okay, I'm the one that knows mortgages. This person does not. Some know more than others, especially if you're working with investors like we love to. Some investors know a whole lot, but we can't assume that. We have to assume the person we're talking to has no idea how a mortgage works at all. And we are the one who is going to educate them on that. And when they have objections, we don't say, oh, you're stupid, or act like that, right? So it's one thing to say it. It's another thing to act like that. People can feel it through the phone. They can feel you rolling your eyes through the phone. That sounds crazy, right? I promise you. It's the energy. People can feel that you're rolling your eyes or sighing or something, making them feel like their objection is invalid or their concern is invalid, because it may be something that's kind of silly to you, but it's not silly to them. So first step is listen, understand, make sure to not trivialize their concerns and their objections or push back on them in a way that's combative, because our job is to literally do the opposite, not to push back. Our job is that to educate them and consult them. We're in it with the borrower, right? They're our client. We're trying to get the money from wherever place we're getting the money. That's always our mindset, right? We are with the client. We're with the client versus the underwriters. We're with the client in the trenches versus the person with the money, whether it be the investor we're working with or a lender that we're working with. It's me and the client in the trenches, us. Everything we should be talking about with the client is, I hope that we can get this approval. We can get this. I hope they approve us, right? Us and we. We're the one in the trenches with the client. It's us and the client versus the world. Right? And we need to act like that and make them understand that. And pushing back on them about objections is going to create the opposite dynamic that we want, right? We're not pushing back on their objections. We're pushing back on the underwriter's objections, right? We're in it with the client, and we got to make them feel like that. And it's not going to feel like that if we're pushing back on their concerns, trivializing their concerns, making them feel like they're stupid because they don't know how mortgage works or mortgage insurance works or whatever it is. And you think that's so simple and everybody should know it. But at the end of the day, it's not their job to. Their job is to be a doctor or whatever the heck it is that they do. It's your job to know how loans work, properly educate them on that. And part of that is listening to their objections and then solving those objections or addressing those concerns. And if we do that properly and educate the client properly through the process, we'll make it the prospect's decision and have them overcome their own objection. For those of you who haven't been on the phone much and haven't seen this kind of play out, when it does play out, you'll be like, wow, that training, I guarantee you'll do it. You'll have a little smirk on your face and remember this training when you actually make it happen and it comes full circle to where in one conversation, your client went from having an objection to being educated on that objection and then overcoming their own objection, excuse me, and they'll literally say it out of their mouth that they'll literally come full circle and solve their own objection out of their own mouth. And I hope that you remember back on this training when that happens to you and it all unfolds. And I'm sure some of you on here have already had that happen. And it's kind of a beautiful thing, a surreal moment that kind of makes you laugh and giggle a little bit because you're like, oh, wow, that really did work. I really allowed them to make their own decision and they actually ended up overcoming their own objection. And now we have no obstacles to go through. We're just going to get right to where we need to be. Because objections are just little obstacles in the way of where we need to be. We need to get to the finish line to solve this client's issues or problems or to close their loan in whichever way it is. And so we just got to get rid of these little objections that are these little obstacles along the way. And if we do it properly, we should have a nice clear path to get it done. And then again, we want to be loan consultants. And so an objection, if you're a true loan consultant, it should excite you a little bit in order to provide a solution and to provide value. And you should say, oh, wow, I'm really glad you asked that. I would love to tell you how this works or why that's not going to be an issue or whatever it is. And then again, this is especially geared towards the newer loan officers. Fear no one, fear no objection. You have all the resources you need. You have the help you need. And at the end of the day, if you're still way too overwhelmed and you don't know how to address their concerns and their objections and you don't know how to do that loan type or whatever the scenario is, use the power of our amazing team here. Let another loan officer that's more educated on that type of loan or experience take over. You still make money. You still learn along the way. You now still have a happy client, happy customer that's going to do their future deals with you, not with the loan officer that you referred it to. They're going to do their future deals with you and hopefully have referrals coming to you in the future as well. All right, I don't see any questions. It looks like some comments. That's good. They can overcome their own objections. Yeah, absolutely. And then let's see here. Thank you for doing these trainings. Absolutely. Thank you for attending them. I definitely appreciate it. And I hope that it helps you all take, at least little tidbits from each training, and hopefully it helps you throughout your sales process. So with that being said, I think we'll wrap it up. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Remember, 12 p.m. Eastern, we do this every weekday where we go through the training of the sales end. And so we will be back here with a new topic tomorrow. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern for the next episode.